So as we prepare to listen to the speakers, I'd just like to recount a bit about my own journey and why I am on this podium today. So when I first received my invitation to join Emerging Enterprise, it was via email, and by the second paragraph, I knew that this was something I wanted to be part of. An association which was dealing with young entrepreneurs was very close to my heart. However, I asked myself, am I a young entrepreneur? Do I qualify to actually be part of something which is for young entrepreneurs? And my initial fervor about joining this association died down, and I had to recollect what brought me to this stage. So it took me back about 10 years, 2003. I was 21 years old, and I had started my first company, which was an electronic legal publisher. And what we're trying to do is to digitize the 50,000 pages of the laws of Kenya onto soft copy. And of course, to do this, we had a large data entry team of law students and a bit of some English students who were working day and night to try and get this project up and running. And of course, these people had to be paid. So I spent most of my day trying to see if I could get some government departments to buy into this idea. At least before the end of the month, if I could have 1 or 2 sales, I knew that I would be able to pay when it came to the end of the month. And one of the government departments I approached was the Solicitor General's office, who is the accounting officer for the Attorney General's office. And the way I did it, I had to do it via telephone because I was 21 years old. I didn't even have a suit at that time, so I couldn't stroll into his office. Now, for 3 straight months, I was calling his office every single day. Every single morning, I would wake up and call his office. And I either got the phone was not answered, or someone would answer the phone and then keep me on hold forever, or sometimes I would be sent in endless loops, being transferred from one department to another. So after 90 days, finally my patience paid off, and I was connected to the Solicitor General. So here was my big chance. An ambitious 21-year-old about to make the pitch of his life. So the gentleman said, yes. And very quickly I was like, hello sir, my name is Harry Karanja, and I want to tell you about, then he was like, let me call you back later. And he hung up the phone. So 90 days, and I got about 5 seconds to speak to the Solicitor General. Now, he had said he would call back, but it was only after an hour that I realized he didn't even have my number. So eventually, I did get a government department to buy into this idea, but it took almost 15 more months. And during these 15 months, I had to expend a lot of labor negotiating skills and get a few early adopters to get me going through. And this is why I think I qualify to be here at this podium today, because I'm a young entrepreneur who has gone through the challenges of actually setting up their business. And what I can do today is to contribute to promote other young entrepreneurs. Now, the Kibaki government has done an excellent job in supporting the private sector, but there's still some way to go when it comes to young people accessing government contracts. And at Emerging Enterprise, it is our desire and our passion to see if President Kenyatta's government can do things differently. Now, guiding us through these objectives, we have an excellent team at Emerging Enterprise, and no one is more committed to this goal than the first speaker, Mr. Martin Nkari. Now, Mr. Nkari is the Executive Director of Emerging Enterprise and has been at the helm since the very first day. I first met Martin when I was at law school in the University of Nairobi. And what struck me about Martin is his passion in articulating matters of football equaled his passion in articulating law. And it was not surprising that Martin went on and found a company by the name Ticketmasters. For those who are fans of football, this is a company you must have interacted with. Ticketmasters has changed the way football is watched in Kenya. So Mr. Nkari, the passion and the talents that he has brought to changing the face of the beautiful game are the same passion and talent that he is bringing on to emerging enterprise. And I would like to welcome him now to give a speech. Mr. Martin Nkari, the Executive Director, Emerging Enterprise. Welcome.
The idea of emerging enterprise was an idea born of opportunity. As entrepreneurs, we don't sit back and wait for things to happen. I think we grab and go out for opportunities. And when the government decided to make a pledge about government procurement, a certain percentage of it to youth-owned enterprises, that seemed like an opportunity. So I'm going to take you briefly about emerging enterprise, how the idea came by, and what our objectives are. I'll start by setting up a scenario. Maina is a milkman somewhere in Njoro. By milkman, I mean Maina is a guy who has a bicycle and a crate at the back of his bicycle. Every day he goes around the farms in Njoro where he has established contacts with farmers. He collects milk, about 100 liters in jerry cans at the back of his bike, and he distributes the milk. In Njoro there is a college, the Rift Valley Institute of Technology. His biggest clients are the lecturers, support staff who live within the institute. But that's the business he does. Then the institute is a government facility. So every year they will advertise the annual tenders. And among the tenders that will be supplied, will be advertised, will be supply of milk, of eggs and meat or something like that. So 21-year-old Maina, is he going to be able to apply for that tender? That would be the question, because I think he should be some of the people who could be looking at these opportunities. But when you look at Maina, what he does is he just goes, collects milk from the farmers, he distributes to his people, he's paid at the end of the week, and he goes and pays his farmers. Maina does not have a registered business. Maina does not even have a bank account. Maina would like to have a big client, but has he ever imagined he could supply milk to the institute? Is that an opportunity available to him? That is scenario one. The second scenario, Harry has told us about how he established his first enterprise. What he didn't tell us is that his latest enterprise, along the same lines, he does business registration for small enterprises. You know, we only have one business registry in the country, and it's at Sheria House. So what happens to this person who is in Kakamega and wants to register a business? It is a big challenge. Harrison runs a portal that registers business, and with payment over the net, and you get your certificate. Now, if the company registry wanted to purchase a portal, because I think it's in one of the things they would like to do, so that they can open the registry to everyone, what are the chances Harry will be the one to be considered for that procurement, considering that IBM is now in town, Safaricom Business, I've been seeing them running ads all week about the big clients they have. They are in town and they want to do something. What are the chances that Harry, with such a great idea, he has been running it, he has been doing it, but when it will come for time for procurement, what are his chances? Okay? it is a bigger business. It is a big idea. It is not Maina's milk, but it is something big. He is a young person and he can do it. So even when we're looking at entrepreneurs, we're looking at this, the Maina level and the Harrison level, and that kind of forms our background. So we decided to come together to look at the opportunity. I will not run you through this. When we went into the background, we saw where the opportunity lies. Besides the president saying, I'm going to give 30% of procurement to young entrepreneurs, we went into the background of this and realized there's actually supporting law. A lot of it is an opportunity that exists, and it is in law. That is in fact an obligation on public institutions. So just some of the laws we found, the Constitution supports the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, the regulations, the Preference and Reservation Regulations, and the recently gazetted county government regulations. So there are obligations of public officers. We have someone from PPOA here today who will tell us more on that. So the opportunity exists. It is a pledge, but it is an opportunity that has existed since 2011. The first preference and reservation regulations were actually published by Uhuru Kenyatta. Back then he was Minister of Finance. But since 2011, for 1.5 years, or is it 2 years almost, nothing has actually happened in that space. So now that he's president, is he going to make it happen? Or as entrepreneurs, do we need to do something to make it happen? Are we going to sit back and wait for the law and the opportunity to work itself out, or is there a role for us as entrepreneurs? The objectives of our platform are we are an enterprise, as a young entrepreneur association formed to lobby and advocate on behalf of young entrepreneurs in the public procurement space that has been set out for the youth. So there are certain specifics we have. We know 30% has been promised. We know in the Jubilee Manifesto, 2.5% of annual revenue is going to go into the youth fund. Are we going to have a youth fund that only supports businesses that are going on, that are starting? Or will we see a fund that actually even supports this space? So young people will get tenders. You have a business, you run a business. Let's consider Maina, the milkman. If Maina was able to apply for that tender and he actually got it, will he be able to do 90 days of delivery without being paid? Where is he going to get this money? These are just some of the things we need to talk about. Even if it's not 90, it's 30, because Maina deals on a weekly basis. Sometimes it's a daily basis. He makes his 500 shillings, and that is it. Can he supply 200 liters of milk? He's been doing 100 liters a day. Can he add another? Does he have the capacity to take 200 more? Where will the money come from? So even when the president is talking about the 30%, we want to hear that the Biashara agency is going to set up, will also have a dedicated fund for procurement basis. The other thing is, we would like to see capacity issues. When you talk about 30% of government business, we are almost talking about 300 billion shillings. Do our enterprises have the capacity to absorb this money? So is there going to be an opportunity, but when you come to the other side, the capacity lacks? So are we going to start with the opportunity? Along the way, because of capacity issues, it fails, and we are told now it will have to go back to 10%. You people can't adapt the 30%. The truth of the matter is I think we can adapt 30%. But as the minor case demonstrates, he is capable of business. But in his current nature, he needs to go through a capacity building. He needs to have his business registered. He needs to have a PIN number for his business so that he can actually get a tax compliance certificate. He needs to have a bank account. So those are things that minor can do, minor should do and should be taken through. Consider his education. He's a Form 4 leaver. Consider the fact that for him to register a business, even a business name, something as simple as a business name, which costs less than 2,500 shillings to register, the kind of knowledge he needs to take him through that process is something that needs to be looked at. So there's going to be need for a lot of capacity building for young people. There is supposed to be a list of all businesses that are to benefit from these preference and reservation schemes. How far is the list gone? The other thing we'll need to really look at is the issue of proxies. We've heard that, and we know that proxies are big. So will minor's opportunity become someone else's opportunity, but through minor? Will a clever person from City Market who has a milk business from City Market in Nairobi, go and tell minor back in Nakuru, you take this thing, then we do it? So we must also come and find a way to deal with the proxy issues. And some of these things that we need to consider is, do we probably need to have business franchises? So let us take an example of Jimmy here. He owns a cleaning business. He's better educated, he has better facilities, he has started a company business that actually wins tenders. His business has capacity to win a tender, to go through and win a tender. Will someone in Nakuru need to reinvent the wheel and start a new cleaning business? Or can Jimmy offer him that franchise so that he uses Jimmy's competence to work that thing out? So these are some of the things we need to discuss. The other thing we'll see is that there will need to be consideration of the kind of people who are appointed in this space and in all other youth empowerment agencies within the government. Are we going to have, in the business space at least, young politicians appointed to boards? Do they understand the needs of the entrepreneur? Or are we going to have young entrepreneurs represent entrepreneurs in the board? Is it visionary? There is no enterprising mind in there. So are we going to have the kind of people who will just come and manage the situation, or we need people who will come and think outside the box? And I think if you need people who will come and think outside the box, you can only tap them from enterprise. Remember back in 2004, there was a promise of 500,000 jobs by the NAC government. Then one day in 2004, we woke up and we were told 400,000 jobs have been created. Was there anyone monitoring, oversight? How will we know that these things are actually happening? So we need a group of persons who will dedicate themselves to monitoring and evaluating this process so that it just doesn't become a story. How do we verify this? What is the role that needs to be played in that space as far as monitoring and evaluation is concerned? And then you will realize that as the next presenter, Wanjiro, will take us through the law, the opportunity in the law, you'll realize that this conversation has been going on without much information in it. All we know is a 30%. But when you actually get into the laws, you realize this thing is covered. This thing, there's a lot of information about this that needs to be done. And it needs to get into the conversation. If the law is going to be reviewed? Is it the technocrats at the Treasury who are going to review the law and come back? Or do we as entrepreneurs need to have our say? So that whole process of information dissemination, let people know. How will Maina know that, for example, he can actually go through a tendering process? Is it for him something just out there that he has never imagined, or is there a need for him to get the information and information that empowers him? So our role will just be simple. We'll be doing the sensitization of our members, an advisory role, because we are building some knowledge on the whole preferential and reservation scheme, the oversight and evaluation, stakeholder dialogue. This is a conversation that needs to go beyond the president has said he will set aside 30%. We need to be talking more than that. We need to know the how, the where, and the when. If you look at the papers today, you will see some government agencies have advertised for the annual tenders. And I think they should do that by the end of the year. And none of them has applied the preference and reservation scheme. So what it probably means is that the 2013-2014 financial year, there isn't going to be preferential procurement because tenders are already gone, unless the government comes up with another thing that which we don't know what it will be. Maybe PPO will tell us. But as far as it goes, the 2013-2014 financial year is already covered. Annual tenders have been advertised, people are applying, and I haven't seen any preference and reservation for young people or any other category of people. Our focus will be entrepreneurs and their enterprises. The entrepreneurs who are considered under the law for this scheme are disadvantaged groups, and under disadvantaged groups we have youth, we have women, and we have the disabled. We have micro enterprises and small enterprises. But our bias will be for the youth because we are young, we know what the opportunity is, we understand our businesses more, we know their needs, we all mostly have shared experiences, and we can benefit and make a voice together. So it's important that this conversation moves on and it becomes more than what we say that the president has said 30% has been reserved for the youth. And we need a call to action. And some of the things that we need to do is get, as Wanjiru once said at a forum, that we need to form a pool of civil society organizations like ours that are going to lobby and advocate for this space. We need that participation, we need that conversation, so that it is not just another trickle-down thing we wait for, so that we are actually members, we are actually participating. We will realize that county governments have not yet come up with their procurement plans, I think. Their financial years are not yet through. They are going through their budgeting process. I haven't seen their tenders yet. So one of the things we are calling for is for all governors to start with the preference and reservation schemes when they advertise their tenders. There will be local preference, so that when the Rift Valley Institute of Technology in Njoro advertises for the supply of milk, it would have a preference for local dealers. Or it would have a reference and say, for example, the supply of milk is for someone young. Therefore, Maina gets an opportunity, so that if the Rift Valley Institute just advertises a tender, even I in Nairobi will apply, and I could supply milk to have these schemes in their procurement plans, so that even they can have a certain percentage of their of their annual tenders go to the targeted groups. The Youth Fund has, in one of its objectives, it says it would like to do franchising. My own business, Ticketmasters, we once ran a pilot project for Rift Valley Railways to do their ticketing. They had many ticketing issues. And one of the things we were proposing is that we franchise our business so that young people can own a Ticketmasters franchise and sell train tickets across town or to Dandora. The person who sells the tickets in Dandora is a business owner under Ticketmasters. When we approached the Youth Fund, they were responsive, but that was all. It was just a response. So at the Youth Fund level, at the Biashara agency level, we need proactive people. We need people who are not bogged down by procedure, who are bogged down by politics, who are not bogged down by lack of capacity. So that what Harrison said, he took 18 months from pitching his business to getting the tender. We need to see more than that. The other thing we are calling out is on young entrepreneurs to come and join us. As an association, our membership is open. At the moment, there are clearly no barriers to entry. We want to have as many people join us as possible so that we can form a voice that can represent us and can pursue our interests. What we'll realize is that every entrepreneur has some business he can do with government. In the papers again the other day, I saw Samsung on the idea of laptops. Samsung said it is very willing and ready to supply the laptops. But let us consider another entrepreneur, Danson here. Danson runs a business called WebTribe. It's among other things, an online payment platform. If Danson identifies a business in government that he can do, does he have the capacity to say that I can do this business and it becomes news? Okay? He doesn't. He's a young guy. If he sends out a press statement, it will not have the same weight if Danson sends a press statement, it will not have the same weight that Samsung has when it does a press statement. How is he going to lobby and advocate for his business? That is why we need an association, a common voice, where we can actually all pitch our businesses. We can even have exhibitions of our businesses we can do with government and invite all government agencies to come and see what we can do for them. How does this happen? Will we wait for government to do it for us, or do we wake up and actually go for the opportunity? So those are just some of the things that we are thinking about. The most important thing is that we open the conversation. We start the conversation, an informed conversation, and a conversation that involves everyone that is involved in this process. And as young entrepreneurs, we would like to get involved. And how do we get involved? Forming an association as emerging enterprise is one of the ways in which we can participate in this conversation. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Enterprise Development Fund, Mr. Go Semelang. Have you ever wondered why lawyers are considered learned? Well, I'm sure from Martin's presentation, you have some idea. But what happened is that in ancient Rome, the people who are considered lawyers did not have any legal training. All they had was training in rhetoric. But after a while, specialists